Hi, GeekGirlCon Twitch. My name is Mary Kimball. I'm on the board of GeekGirlCon, and I'm also a massive gardening nerd. And I am here with my friends and esteemed gardeners, Lori, Marina, and Tasia, to talk a little bit about how you can use cosplay principles and similar inspirations to get involved with plants and express yourself and your fandoms through botany and horticulture. So we just did a panel where we talked about how we would explore different worlds through plants, thinking about like if we're going to fully make it ourselves, if we're going to buy it at the garden store, aka Spirit Halloween, if we're going to do full commission, where we are on the, screen accuracy to Disney bounding scale, or if we're going to go full artistic interpretation. So if you can see on the laptop here, we have our garden cosplay version of a classic D&D alignment chart. Instead of morality, we've replaced it with effort because there's no judgment if you buy your garden plants, grow them yourself, or work with a garden designer to buy them wholesale. It's all about high effort and low effort. So for each of our panelists, I want you to think about from a cosplay standpoint, both about the plants that you would use as well as what you would wear while you're gardening. Spider-Man. So any iteration of Spider-Man, we're looking at comic books, but you're welcome to go into into the Spider-Verse, any of the other bajillion Spider-Man movies we've had. You can even go adjacent, Spider-Gwen or Black Cat, and because I think creativity happens best when there's a little bit of restrictions, I want you to think about spiders and insects and gardening in urban environments. So, Tasia, I'm going to start with you. Tell me what you would do.
Okay.
And talking to the mic.
Alrighty. So I have a couple of thoughts. I think I'm going to work backwards. I am a fan of practical outdoor gardening and community gardening, just finding a row to grow. But also some more challenging gardening, which can sometimes be house plants, and creating a tropical environment. So a lot of pest control, that works with that is what I'm thinking about. And so I think of like a cumaris, which is a predatory mite that I would need to have around if I was going to maintain an indoor garden. I would also think about having lacewigs as well, and maybe some ladybugs, because that gives the Spider-Man, Spider-Verse vibes. As far as like an outfit or something of that nature, you got to go with like spandex. I literally have a pair of leggings on right now. I'm still in that spandex vibe. I know some folks are wearing some looser gear and clothes, but I know there's probably some funner things that we can wear. So I'm interested in hearing from others. And I think in the Spider-Verse, is it Miles Morales?
Miles
Morales. So I would definitely do the Miles Morales approach and go young, get my youth back. So thank you.
Marina, what would you do?
Okay, I think that I would go with a container garden, because we're embracing the urban nature of the Spider-Man, Spider-Verse. I think I would do, I would go with a Miles Morales inspired and go Puerto Rican, since I'm part Puerto Rican, and do some sort of, I'd probably do like cilantro, vegetables, definitely tomatoes for sure, onions, and try to grow some of the stuff that is in a lot of like traditional Puerto Rican food, so that I can supplement my, fed meal that I'm getting down at the store. But outfit wise, I feel like spandex is I feel like you gotta embrace the spandex for Spider-Man. And to really give homage to Miles, I would wear a pair of Air Jordans.
Come on.
While I'm doing it.
Lori, go for it. Let's hear about your Spider-Man garden.
I'm team spandex too. I just feel like anything else would like do a disservice to the theme. Thinking about my my urban garden, same as you, would bring ladybugs. They are just so awesome when aphids are infesting my garden. I don't do anything because I know the ladybugs will take care of them. Some people buy their ladybugs. I don't really. So I start the season. I plant a lot of flowers very early in the season. I leave my garden alone in the fall. I don't clean it up. It's very practical. It doesn't take a lot of work, but also it takes care of the pollinators. They stay there. They lay their eggs. They stay there until they're ready to come out in the spring. I like growing tomatoes, so like just going with the theme and thinking about all the red, different varieties of tomatoes. I have been such a big fan of climbing tomatoes, the indeterminate tomatoes, and I grow them up, these arches, and so fun to pick them. Also some heirloom tomatoes that are fun to turn into sauces. So this year is my first time to make, I think, 20 jars of tomato sauce from what I got from my garden. I'm just thinking of like other ways to think about it, but I'm really leaning more towards like pollinators and bugs. And I really have such high respect for all the living things that we have out there, and it's really important to create a balance. So I leave the dandelions very early in the season. I don't pull out. I don't call them weeds. They are early, food for our pollinators when there's nothing growing yet. And then when my flowers are ready to bloom, then, I can take care of all the weedy looking things if I want to clean up. So really just thinking about that.
Okay, let's do rapid fire. Thinking about our fave, you can tell we're big Miles Morales fans here, I think. Into the Spider-Verse, what would be your Spider-Verse if you could have a Spider-Man, and how would you express that through like a container planting of Thriller, Filler, and Spiller, which is a container gardening concept where your filler is a plant that's going to spread and cover the ground of your container, or like the bare soil, so weeds don't grow, and so it helps retain moisture. Spiller are plants that are going to add interest beyond your container because they're going to spill over the edges. And then Thrillers are your tall plants to take advantage of hypothetically all the vertical space you have. So I'm going to start because I made this up, and so I should go first. I'm going to steal, I think it was the John Mulaney Pig Spider-Man, because I think he would wear overalls instead of spandex. I love overalls, so I would probably wear a pair of navy blue overalls with like a blue and red flannel. And I'm going to say, because I want to encourage spiders, I'm going to do maybe like a Japanese maple as my Thriller. I'm going to use sedums as my filler, and for my spiller, I'm going to go with Alaska nasturtiums because I believe they're red. And that reminds me of the costume. Lori, what would be your Spider-Verse, either from the movie or one that you're making up, and how would you express it in plants?
Oh my gosh, I'm not even thinking about just the movies, like the ones that we grew up with when we were little kids, like the classic Spider-Man that we are so familiar with. I just, but I do like the ones where I never remember the name, where there's like the black suit, like, how do you call that, Spider-Man? And so I'm thinking about that, and also like putting that concept into a container garden. I would say I put some black mondo grass spilling out.
I was wondering if you were going to say the black mondo grass.
And then there's a petunia called Galaxy Petunia that's like spilling out, and you can get them also like in a different color. I forget the
Is that
name.
The one that looks like little stars?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Lori is a pro at growing those. They always look so good. I would wilt them. But yeah, that would be a fire combination.
Yeah, you have to just keep snipping them when they're kind of like dying off, and they will keep producing flowers. And some sweet alyssum growing around them, some Lithadora maybe. So a little bit, I like stuffing my containers. That would be the fillers. And then the Thriller, I am thinking some yarrow. some white yarrow. Also, there's one called moonlight yarrow, which is really beautiful. So that would be my thriller. And they're very good for the pollinators, with sweet alyssum as well. So keeping to that theme, I would say spiders, bugs, and all these other pollinators like bees and butterflies. It's just so important to keep them alive, and they take care of us, growing our vegetables as well. So I like planting plants that are good for the pollinators. That's usually my excuse when I plant something new, for the pollinators.
Marina, what would be your Spider-Verse?
Oh God, I'm having a really hard time with this. So I'm going to I'm just going to go with it. I would pick, I'm going to pick not Spider-Man, but I'm going to pick Mary Jane, because that gives me some more colors to work with. And I feel like if, okay, let's say Peter Parker was planting a garden, he would need Mary Jane to help him. It just feels like he's always off fighting crime. Who's going to water the plants? Who's going to remember to take it in when it freezes? It's Mary Jane. Mary Jane's there. So for my plants, I'm gonna need some help brainstorming plants. But here's one. I think we should have marigolds.
That's perfect for Mary Jane.
Yeah, I think that marigolds would be really good for kind of capturing the color and intensity of her hair and her spirit.
They're also really good at attracting aphids.
Okay.
So if you don't have the bug intervention, you can always use a marigold.
And they're great for describing the multicultural aspect of the world that Spider-Man is often in, because marigolds are such an important part of Indian culture and Mexican culture, and they come in so many different varieties as well. So there's the Mexican marigolds are which is often called Mexican tarragon. It's a much more smaller, frillier variety, and they're just super fun.
Okay, and then what is a thriller plant that is red?
Bee balm, Monarda?
Okay, that one. Yeah.
Or Jacob Klein, yeah.
Okay.
You could also go with one of my favorite zinnias.
Oh, I like that. I know those guys.
Again, multicultural, we're pulling from Mexico here. A wonderful papery texture to them. They also come in a huge variety of colors, so we could, to pay homage to our homegirl, our heroine, Mary Jane, you could get just a classic red one. But there's so many different varieties now.
Okay. And then I think I also want, I don't know if this fits in, but I think a mint that has a different flavor, a spicy mint.
Okay.
Would be good because, I don't know, it feels nice.
There's a ginger mint.
Okay. Yeah. Ginger mint. Multicultural.
I love that.
Tasia, what would you do? And I have to say, your hair is giving me such Spider-Gwen Black Cat vibes right now, especially you are the embodiment of Black Cat right now. I love it.
Okay, maybe I'll riff off of some more kind of maybe houseplant things, or actually I'm gonna try to. So earlier when we were talking, a lot of what I talked about was practical gardening and things that can either cut and come back again, or something you can put in the ground and it kind of acts like a weed. And I talked about some of the maybe darker, moodier plants that you can find in your garden. And so remind me, starts with an A. We were talking about leeks and onions and alliums. So for me, in my container garden, alliums in particular, there's a variety of onion called sweet candy that you can get. If you allow it to continue to bloom, it can create a flower, which that flower is typically white. Onions can produce a white flower, but also still give you that bulb to chew on and put into your food. And so I would go with that candy onion. And then also in the ground, which for me has done well next to my onions because they can go a little bit deeper, would be some sort of dark, deep blue, black kind of potato. So I mentioned earlier kind of the Molly Moon or the blue potato that could go be mixed in there. And then we're looking for a thriller, or something that drapes or vines. And so I'm trying to think of something moody that comes to mind for that. But off the riff, one of the really practical ways of gardening, especially if you're able to do maybe square foot gardening versus maybe container gardening is something called Three Sisters. So going along with the cross-cultural move, knowing that we are on Duwamish territory. Three Sisters, you're thinking your beans, your corn, and your squashes. And so I would maybe do some mix of that so that I could still have a compact experience.
That would be fun because then you could, so there's an edible variety of corn that is delightful to grow, sweet corn. But there's also some varieties that, are more for ornamental purposes or, that you can use to ground into flour and make all sorts of different things from. And then you could have more of that like moody color palette.
And that's a dent or a flint corn. And so you're going to find it can have a little bit of a sweet flavor. And it tends to grow better than the sweet corn. And the sweet corn, you have to kind of find it at just the right time. So I would highly recommend if you're interested in making creative flowers. That's a flour for baking. That's one way you can do that.
Yeah, and corn, you're always going to grow it from seed if you're doing it at home, because the roots are really delicate and they're resistant to transplanting. And two other notes about corn, because you can use them in containers or in the ground, so they're super versatile, super fun. They are wind pollinated. So, that means that you typically need to have the same variety super close to it in like a grid pattern, which can be really fun. And also, because they're wind pollinated, that means cross pollination can be a real risk, or reward depending on what you're trying to do. But if you want to preserve, the variety that you're growing, just make sure that there's no other variety, of that type growing within, like, I'd say at least 50 feet. So like you might be able to get away, like if you and your neighbor are growing different types of corn, maybe, but just something to be aware of, with corn specifically. Unless your goal is to go super chaotic and come up with your own corn hybrid, which you could do.
Totally do that.
That feels like very Spider-Verse.
Yes, I recommend something called Atomic Corn from Baker Creek Rare Seeds if you're interested in something that's a little spooky, a little moody. It's something that I've grown over the past several years, and it's literally atomic orange.
Yeah, Baker Creek, their seeds are so good. You can get them. My favorite local nursery is Sky Nursery, and they have beautiful seed packets, as well as just great seeds in general. So in closing, let's have you each go down. We'll start, Tasia, we'll start with you, and let's just talk about your favorite plant in general. Doesn't have to be necessarily for Spider-Man, but what's the plant that makes your heart the happiest?
It's really interesting. So, I got into houseplants and tropical plants around the pandemic. Prior to then, I had maybe owned like three plants, and they were some sort of succulent, and they all died. But along the way, as I've built out my collection, there is a variety that I really love. It's called chia pins, and the variegated chia pins in particular, because the mature version kind of has this heart shape, but the immature version is this buttery, beautiful, leathery leaf that is just so velvety and smooth as it grows. And so it is just one of my favorites. It is something that you have to kind of stake, and it grows along a pole, and the leaves get bigger and bigger as you kind of cut and repot. But it is just one of my favorites, and in particular the variegated variety, and it's just stayed with me.
Marina, what's your heart plant?
I really like mint. Because
you and the invasive species today.
But it's like really nice.
Marina designed a garden earlier today completely full of noxious weeds, just so you all know.
Yeah, there's blackberries. Blackberries played a central role in this.
Huckleberry, blackberry.
Yeah, so I really like mint because I can grow it and it doesn't die. That honestly, it's a success. And I have a couple varieties of mint that I grow every year, and I use it, and it's like a very functional plant because I like eating mint straight off the plant, and it tastes good, and it also reminds me of my childhood, so it's like very, sentimental plant. But yeah, mint.
Lori, what's your beloved botanically?
I have 3. I'll narrow down to 2. I mentioned earlier, so red, the bee balm called Jacob Klein. And it's because the hummingbirds love them. And my garden is swarming with hummingbirds. And every day it just brings me so much joy to step out in my garden, look out my window, and they're just flying, from one plant to another. And it's so easy to propagate, they grow really fast. You don't do anything with them. You can divide them or not, and they get really big. The other one is Walker Slow Nepeta. I was telling the group earlier that I couldn't keep lavender alive. So Nepeta is so long blooming, very beautiful, gives you that same vibe as lavender, but the bees are all over them, and I think it's so important to take care of our bees. So they bloom very early, and then you can they call it the Chelsea chop, where like if it looks a little bit spent, you just cut it and it will bush out again and grow again. And you can have it all season from maybe late spring or early summer up to like fall. And so I've propagated a lot of it too. So easy, just cut it, stick it in the ground, and it grows. So you can give it to so many people, take care of the bees, tell everyone to take care of the bees by giving them pretty flowers. So I love that flower. So those 2, because it really takes care of our Mother Nature, and takes care also of the pollinating the plants that need to grow. So, for example, like zucchinis, if you're not into hand pollinating, when you don't have enough pollinators, so bring in the pollinators early by planting those flowers.
I'm going to say my heart plant of choice is probably the sunflower. I remember when I was first learning about post-impressionists in like middle school or whatever, I saw Vincent van Gogh's beautiful, beautiful still lifes of all sorts of plants, but especially lilies and sunflowers. And there's really cool hybridization going on right now by this guy, Steve, who lives in the Midwest. He's trying to make varieties that look like Van Gogh's, we say his name on Van Gogh, sunflowers, these big, like what are called kind of like teddy bear varieties that are really fuzzy, come in all sorts of different ranges of like yellows, oranges, and browns. And I love the resiliency of them. I love how fast they grow, so I can always grow a bunch because they get eaten by squirrels and rabbits in the beginning, and then the ones that make it just grow so tall and they're so fun. There's branching sunflowers, so if sometimes they get eaten, they can grow again because they're made to have multiple stems. So they're just super fun. I don't know if I have a favorite variety because they're just all there's just so many to do, so many to grow, and they're really excellent to grow by seed because that's how you get the fun special varieties. So I think that's it for us plant nerds over here. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in this weekend, supporting GeekGirlCon and giving us a chance to nerd out about plants. If you're at con, be sure to stop by the DIY Science Center where you can learn more about plant propagation and fungi and talk about plants, look at reference volumes, try some evergreen huckleberry. I don't have any invasives with me today, but I can show you pictures of them. I have a whole book about weeds in the Pacific Northwest. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day.